Hello, everybody. My name is Andrea. I'm here with the Community Language Cooperative, and today we're going to be practicing language justice so that everybody can hear and speak in the language of their heart or how they feel more comfortable. After I'm done saying this message in Spanish, we're going to turn on the interpretation feature. You're going to see a globe that is going to come up at the bottom of your screen where you're going to click and select your preferred language. If you don't see the globe, go to the three little dots or where it says more, and you'll find the interpretation function there. To all of our presenters, please remember to speak at a conversational pace. Spanish is 20 to 25% longer than English, so it will take me that much longer to repeat everything that you're saying into the other language. Hola a todos, mi nombre es Andrea, estoy aquí con la Community Language Cooperative. Vamos a estar practicando la justicia del lenguaje el día de hoy para que todos podamos comunicarnos en el idioma de nuestro corazón o como nos sintamos más cómodos. Una vez que prendamos la interpretación, ustedes van a ver un globo que va a aparecer en la parte inferior de su pantalla, donde van a poder seleccionar su idioma. Si no ven el globo o si están en su teléfono o tableta, vayan a los tres punticos donde dice más y ahí encontrarán la función de interpretación. Recuerden hablar un paso conversacional y que tengan una buena reunión. Host, we can start interpretation now.
Welcome, welcome, everyone. We're so glad that you're with us today. It's this afternoon or morning, depending on where you're coming to us from. So welcome. As you come in, if you'd like to put your name and where you're from and maybe the weather, because it's changing significantly around here. I live in Atlanta and it's finally fall. It got down to, I know, it's chilly here for us Atlantans. It got down to 65 last night, and it's only supposed to go up to the low 70s. So fall is here, and we're very excited about that. So welcome again to the Whole Child, Whole Family, Whole Systems webinar series, to the final webinar in our series. We're very happy that you're here with us. We have something very special planned. Hope you brought your thinking caps because we're going to be getting information from you as we walk through this final webinar. So the webinar is Stop Talking and Start Walking. That sort of gives you a hint about where we're headed. Whole systems that take action for children and families. My name is Michelle Adkins. I'm with the Prenatal to 3 Capacity Building Hub, and I'm joined today by Ngozi and Omotunde and Jessica, and I'm going to give you all a minute to introduce yourselves to everyone who's here.
I'll go first. So I'm Ngozi Lawal, and I am a consultant at the Build Initiative, and I'm really delighted to be with you, even though this is our last webinar together. It's been a wonderful run, and I'm really glad that I have Omotunde and Jessica partnering with us. So Omotunde, I will pass it to you so that you can introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you, Ngozi and Michelle. My name is Omotunde Sowole-West, and I work with the Build Initiative on the Prenatal to 3 Capacity Building Hub as a whole family systems liaison. And it's been great to work with my colleagues, and we're really excited to have you here today. So like Michelle said, get ready, stop talking and start walking, and I'll pass it to Jessica.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jessica Rodriguez-Duggan. I'm actually with Prenatal to 5 Fiscal Strategies, but have worked with Build in the past years, and they are a strong partner of Prenatal to 5 Fiscal Strategies. So I am very happy to be here with all of you today, and I will be doing some support and content when we get to the interactive part where I can provide some support in Spanish. So happy to be here with all of you again.
Thank you so much. We can go to the next slide to take a little bit a look about who's here today. We had over 300 people register for the webinar from 47 states and the District of Columbia. Y'all are from all over the place. Children and Youth Families, Health and Human Services, Early Childhood and Family Coalition and Networks, center-based and home-based care, foundations and philanthropy. Y'all can read that whole list. Needless to say, and we have a vast group of people with us, and that's what we like the best, because what we want more than anything is for y'all to start talking to each other and breaking down those silos that we sometimes put ourselves in, and say, I am this. I'm early childhood mental health and a and I don't talk to early childhood educators. And we know that none of you people out there would say that, but we sometimes put ourselves in silos, and our goal throughout this series has been to try to eliminate those. So welcome, welcome. We're very glad you're here with us today. Next slide. So this hopefully is a graphic that is familiar to most of you. If you have been coming in early, you should be seeing a video that Susan Hibbert has created that talks about this graphic a little bit. We call it the ovals graphic, as you can see, based on the 4 ovals that are in the center of the graphic. Susan and several other leaders from several other early childhood leadership organizations came together and were trying to find a graphic that would depict really the whole early childhood system. And this is the graphic that they came up with. And this is sort of the heart of what we believe, which is that for thriving children and families to happen, for us to really have thriving children and families, we have to wrap around them with the systems that support them. And the systems that support them need to be working together to make sure that we can do that the best as possible. So as you'll see, thriving children and families are in the center, and they are surrounded by sort of 4 different ovals. And I'm going to talk just a little bit about what each one of those ovals means, so that you get a sense of what these systems are and what sectors live within each system. So just to talk briefly, the blue oval is health, mental health, and nutrition. So we're looking at the sectors within there, like early childhood mental health, maternal and child health, WIC, and other health and mental health providers, services that live within that sector and within that system. The green system is early learning. So we're looking at Head Start, early Head Start, family child care providers, center-based child care providers. Those are the 6 sectors that live within that system. The red oval is around family supports, and family supports can be anything from family resource centers, child abuse and neglect prevention programs, peer networks, respite care, anything sort of in the broader family supports arena, if you will. The 4th oval, as we look at it, is orange, yellow, depending on how you see that color. And that is supports for economic self-sufficiency. And those are things like credit counseling, TANF, job training and placement, and tax credits. So what I just talked about was each of those systems within the early childhood system need to be working together and in collaboration with each other so that we can serve our children and families as best as possible. What you might have noticed is around these ovals are what we call leadership practices. And these leadership practices are meant to help us get to the goal of those thriving families and to help support the systems within early childhood to talk to each other. So we're talking about collaborating with cross-sector leaders at all different levels within those sectors, building leadership capacity, using data to identify disparities and plan strategic interventions, to act intentionally, to reduce racial inequities, to measure impact and continuous improvement, and to engage with and center voices of families and communities. And one of the things that you will hear mentioned throughout the webinar today is this notion of and the need to center families and their voices in everything we do. So as we look at that, this is what we see as the early childhood system of systems. So we have a number of different systems that make up our early childhood system. And that's what this whole webinar series has been about in terms of looking at how we can get systems to work together in a way that serves children and families better. I think there's going to be a link dropped in the chat, or it's not a link, actually, it's something that you can download that will give you some information about all of the different webinars that we have throughout the series. And we'll talk about that in the next slide. So as we talked about this series, we have covered a number of different topics. And again, the webinars were topic specific, but they focused also on how these different, how the economic support systems, if you will, interact with early childhood education, for example. So we had a webinar on economic supports in it. And what we know is that a parent can't focus on a child's development when their rent is due. So some of the things we talked about in economic supports were a program in St. Paul that Omotunde brought to us, thankfully, which is called College Bound. It has some guaranteed income program part of it, financial support, and it provides long-term supports for mothers and parents of young children. We looked at Montana's tax credit program and birthday tax credits that help provide, again, economic support to families with young children. We had a webinar on developmental environments, which exclusively focused on extreme heat. And what we know about that is that cool shaded spaces in the summer aren't luxuries. They're foundations for development. So we talked a little bit oh, I skipped one, didn't I? Well, I'll go back to maternal and child health. So developmental environments, we talked about the impact of extreme heat on both young children and pregnant people. We talked about cross-sector systems and cross-sector work that were helping to build and provide shaded space. We learned that shade was the best thing you could have to protect young children when the heat is extreme. And we know that due to the changes in the weather that we are experiencing, extreme heat is becoming more and more prevalent. So now back to maternal and child health. Systemic gaps in maternal health don't just harm parents. We know that they fracture early childhood. And when we looked at maternal and child health, we looked at Guilford County's Ready Ready, who has created a Routes to Ready program that is a coordinated network of care. They have personalized intake, they provide inclusive caregiver support, and they use data-driven coordination. So that was an example of a great program that is doing cross-sector work, and we wanted to spotlight that program in that webinar. Now I'm going to skip down to homelessness. Homelessness, we know when families are homeless, the child's first classroom is chaos. And so in the homelessness, we learned about the different definitions of homelessness and how that can get in the way of families and children accessing the supports that they need. We looked at the South Carolina Resource and Referral Homelessness Initiative that works to identify families who may be experiencing homelessness through the resource and referral and get them connected with the resources and the help and the support that they may need. After we talked about homelessness, we talked about housing stability. Without stable housing, early childhood becomes survival, not growth. When we talk about housing stability, we learned a little bit about businesses' role in how they can support or not support families and parents who may be going through unstable housing due to illness, and the critical role that housing plays in the well-being of pregnant people and young children. And we're going to hear a story about a young mom who had unstable housing due to illnesses in her children, and how she received the supports that she needed. We had a family support webinar that was families shouldn't be met with referrals. They should be met with presence, dignity, and real, tangible, warm handoffs to services they need. This was a thread that we heard throughout the webinar series in terms of treat us as human beings, build relationships with us, help us feel whole, and connect with us. We know you have supports to give us, but one of the things we really need is for you to treat us with dignity and respect. When we looked at family support, one of the examples we looked at was the cultural, emotional, and practical roles that aunties play in Indigenous communities. And we saw the example of Hummingbird Family Services and the ways that they use aunties to help support pregnant people and their young children. And then finally, the one we just had in September was on nutrition. And you can't fuel a child's mind on an empty stomach, which makes a lot of sense. We learned about the key programs that support young children and families in this country. We learned about SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, WIC, which has a very much longer name than WIC would indicate. It is the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children. So that one's specifically for parents of young children, and CACFP, which is the Child Care and Adult Food Program, which works with child care centers and homes to provide healthy food. We talked about the role that Feeding America's 200 food banks plays in meeting the needs of families with young children. And we also heard a little bit about the Pritzker Children's Initiative, who is a funder of the hub, of the Prenatal to 3 Capacity Building Hub, and their future plans for food security as they move forward. So that's a brief, maybe longer than you thought, sorry, overview of what we've covered thus far in our webinars. And I think it's my turn to be quiet and turn it over to Omotunde. Oh,
I'm going to step in. So Michelle, thank you so much.
Ngozi's turn.
Thanks so much for that overview. I think that really helps folks who might not have been part of the earlier parts of the webinar series get a good sense of all the really important topics that we've been discussing. And as you can imagine, we just scratched the surface because there's so many other topics we could have covered. But what we tried to bring to you all were topics that, that parents, community leaders, state leaders thought were really important. So that overview was really helpful. So thank you, Michelle. I'm just going to touch a little bit on our overall objectives. So you just heard about the topics. And so part of what we've been trying to have a conversation around is what is a whole system approach and what does that look like? Because that's a very abstract thing to say. And so what we've been trying to model in our presentations and webinar series is providing real examples of how states, communities have worked together to serve children and families in a whole way. And so we have a lot of wonderful examples, and you'll see some of those in a moment when Omotunde speaks with you about what we learned from the parents and talking with them about their various prenatal to 3 experiences. Another thing that we have done in this series is to identify what's getting in the way. What is causing us to stumble as we try to create a whole system approach for children and families. And so we have talked with system leaders, again, spoken with parents, and we've just reflected on our own experiences being in this field, thinking about what has gotten in the way. And I'm sure if we were to poll you right now, we're not, but if we were to poll you right, I'm sure you could think of 3 examples at the top of your brain that is really getting in the way of you serving children and families most effectively. So we've been identifying those, and we're not just admiring the problems, we are also thinking about, well, what are those strategies that we need to have a more integrated system? As you can see, if you've joined us before in the past, we have really centered our conversations around family voice and equity. And for most of our conversations, we have begun with a parent story so that we can be reminded of this work that we're doing and really understand from a parent perspective what the needs of families are and how they want to be served. So that has been a thread throughout all of our conversations in this series. We've thought about leadership and what does leadership mean at the various levels and how we are using data for improvements. So we've really relied in each presentation on what's the national perspective? What do we know about this particular topic nationally in terms of data? What do we know locally? And so we've been using that to guide and inform decision-making around how we improve or how we might improve. As I pointed out, we've been using real-world examples. So we've heard from leaders at various levels, state, local, federal level, or national level rather, and been thinking about what are the actionable strategies we can take. So we usually end the conversation with a Q&A discussion where we ask the presenters, and that includes the parent presenters. So what do we do? What do we do about this particular topic? And how do we move forward? What are 2 or 3 things you would suggest if folks want to work on this on Monday morning? If they want to get started, what do you recommend? So we've been really focused on those actionable strategies. And our hope is that by having these conversations, that we are building sustainability into the various systems that we all work in so that we can have a long-term, ongoing whole child, whole family system that really works for children and families. Next slide, please. Okay, so I just talked to you about what you've missed if you haven't been with us over the past, well, we started in February, so pretty much over the past year. And so now I just want to ground us in what we are doing today. So our objectives for today is to understand how a whole child, whole family, whole systems approach impacts the prenatal to 3 period. So we are continuing the conversation, even though we are bringing the series to an end. We're going to reflect on the lived experiences of families. So you're going to hear directly from families that we have asked to speak with us throughout the series so that we can really understand the real barriers that families face and the kinds of supports that really help them have the greatest difference and really overcome. We are looking at today how we center family voice in a way that actually shifts systems. So we are thinking about ways to authentically integrate parents' perspectives rather than just collecting their ideas and putting it on a board somewhere. We are turning to you for your ideas and expertise around how your organization plays a role in cross-systems collaboration. And we will be listening to you to hear about partnerships, practices, approaches that you're already taking, or perhaps ones that you would like to take moving forward. And then finally, we would love it if everyone can commit to at least one concrete step that you can take, and we will prompt you when we get to the questions section. But we're asking you, inviting you to commit to one concrete step. It can be personal. It can be a step that your organization can take to help advance systems change. Next slide, please. And I'm passing it to Omotunde.
Yes, thank you, Ngozi, and thank you, Michelle, for that overview. Hopefully you all feel a little bit grounded of what we are going to do today. So as Ngozi and Michelle both explained, over the past few months or a course of a year, we've really had an opportunity to look at whole child, whole family, and whole systems through a webinar series. And we've really had an opportunity to learn from so many incredible voices, whether it be families, practitioners, and systems leaders, as my colleagues have explained. Who are really working together to reimagine how we support prenatal to 3 families and what that looks like. So today, before we move into the discussion and we really start to dig a little bit deeper, we want you to take a moment to reconnect to the real stories behind the systems that work. And so what we've done is that you're going to look at a video of some of our family leaders, our leaders who have really had the opportunity to navigate multiple systems. These are parents and caregivers who've really interacted directly with programs, agencies across health, housing, early childhood, and economic support systems. Our hope is really that when you look at this video, it helps us really pause and reflect on really what it means to build whole family, whole child, and whole systems through a really concrete approach, one that centers the voices, strengths, and experiences of families themselves. So as you watch this video, what we want you to do is really listen for how families describe their experiences navigating through different systems, the challenges that they have faced, and ways that they found resilience, community, and support to overcome those systems and those challenges.
Through guaranteed income, I was able to quit 2 of my jobs. My 3-year-old, I'm able to be there for his developmental milestones. I'm able to engage in activities, take him out to your basic museums, to the zoo, introduce him to things that I wasn't able to do with my eldest children because I didn't have the means and mobility. I did not have the support or the guidance when I had my older 2 children. I do have that now. Don't treat us like clients. Treat us as if we're partners.
I've had 4 other NICU babies, and I wanted nothing more than a healthy full-term baby this time. In total, I spent almost 7 weeks away from home, but I was able to bring my healthy 8-pound baby home to join our family a mere 24 hours after delivery. All these stories aren't narrow in their consequences, only involving the mom and the baby. They have a ripple effect, changing whole families and communities.
Both my children, as I mentioned, were born 3 months premature. My oldest had heart surgery at 9 days old, and then a massive back surgery later in life due to a complication from that heart surgery. My youngest almost died twice in the NICU and took years to catch up. Some things did work out. Thankfully, I had a village. I was a home visiting client. It took that home visitor quite a bit of work, right, to encourage me to accept her to my home and into my life and to my recovery from my first child. Access, respectful care that's person-centered, humane care, culturally affirming care. What if the outcome of our work was joy, abundance, thriving, vibrancy?
All these tips, I wish someone can put it together and then make it an information and send it to everybody. I really encourage every city that you can have a focus group and really listen to the families, because every area is different. So you can really understand what the local families needs. I really think it's so important to have the pediatricians and school to understand how important this is, and then give the family the information and resources.
So my situation happened because I have 2 chronically ill children. At birth, both of my children were diagnosed with sickle cell disease. I have the trait, Dad has the trait. And I knew at birth that there will be issues for these children. I was fully aware. But I made the decision to have my children. Do I feel at times that we're all paying for that decision, myself and the children? Of course. After I was housed, I had an awesome case manager, so thank you to her. After I was housed, I actually got a call from the then ED, the executive director. I think it was 8 months after I was housed. I got a phone call from her, and she was like, I need a case manager. And I was like, okay, good luck with that. So she was like, no, I'm talking to you. I need a case manager. I'm like, wow, this is a blessing, because I've lost jobs behind my children, so she knows what I'm dealing with. And I became a case manager because of her.
And my OBGYN just sat with me. She didn't type. She asked me about school. She just had a conversation with me like I was a human. And she was like, oh, we'll get through this. And I think you have potential. You're going to be a great mom. And when I was in the hospital detoxing, the nurses could have been horrible to me because they knew what was happening. that I had been using until 32 weeks of pregnant, and was just now getting care. And instead they helped me find safe ways to breastfeed my daughter with hepatitis, and resources, and they helped me transition into going to inpatient treatment where I was with my daughter. There was nothing that I could think of more that I wanted to talk about than the importance of relationship building, because that's how I got through everything. And today, that same OBGYN that believed in me, we have together, I'm her practice administrator, a prenatal and postpartum clinic for nonprofit called Baby Steps.
SNAP and WIC are not enough for my family when it comes to nutrition. The food banks here in Montana have been our lifeline. I have utilized a bunch of programming, federal, state, local, tribal, in order to nourish my family. My daughter, her name's Wilder, her pediatrician, selected our family to participate in a pilot program called Produce RX. And so what that did is it allowed a local farmer entity to drop to our doorstep in Montana fresh fruits and vegetables that I wasn't necessarily exposed to growing up, but it exposed my daughter and my son to nutrition that was just fresh, and the textures and the colors, they were thrilled when they would see that on the doorstep.
Looking back, the supports that could have made the biggest difference for my daughter and myself weren't just about shelter. They were about stability, understanding, and dignity. Timely, compassionate help that saw us as a family in crisis, not a number on a list. What we need from our leaders are systems built not just with policies, but with compassion. Thank you for listening, not just with your ears, but with your hearts, because when voices like mine are heard, changes become possible. And when that change happens, it tells families like mine, you're not invisible, you matter.
So, this is our chance to reconnect the why behind the work, to ground our systems change efforts in the lived realities of the families we heard. As you just heard, behind every policy, every form, every program, there is a real family navigating hopes, barriers, and possibilities. Their stories remind us that system change is not just about improving processes or aligning agencies. It's about creating conditions where families feel seen, supported, and valued as partners in their own success. So we're now going to turn to an activity where you will have a voice in creating action that supports families. I'll pass it over to Ngozi.
Thank you, Omotunde, and thank you for sharing that video. I do think you're absolutely right that this grounds us in why we're even here, why we're even in this space together. So we're going to transition now to doing something active. So I am sure most of you, or almost all of you, at least during the COVID period, have used a virtual board like a Miro board or a Canvas in the past. And so what we're going to do is ask you to do a little bit of writing and reflecting, but we're going to give you some instructions so you know exactly what to do. And if in the end you don't want to write on the board, then you may also put your idea in the chat box. But we would love it if you could put it on the board, because Omotunde, myself, Michelle, we're all going to be looking at what you're writing in the board, because we want to know what's in your brain, what's on your mind. So let's go ahead and get started with the board and how this works. We're going to ask you 3 questions, and really simple, but we'll walk you through it. So we're going to give you the questions one at a time. For each question, we're going to drop the link to the board in the chat. So we're not going to divide up and go to different Zoom rooms. That's not what this is. We are all going to remain here together, and we're going to drop the link into the chat according to the question that we're on. So we're going to start with question 1. And we are going to have the questions in both English and Spanish. You're going to have about 4 minutes to write on the board and respond to the question. And we'll give you just a heads up that we're coming to the close. Maybe when there's about 1 minute left, we'll just pop back in and let you know, hey, you've got 1 minute left, so that you can be reminded to wrap up your point, and then we'll move to the next question. After you've written your ideas, Omotunde, Michelle, and I are going to synthesize what you've written so that everybody has the benefit of having kind of like a 60,000 feet in the air idea of what the group is thinking. We will not get to every single note, but we will do our best to summarize the main themes and concepts that you've written about. So the other piece of information that you need is that we're going to begin in English. So one of us, the three of us, we'll read the question. You will go ahead and get writing, and simultaneously, you will, if you are a Spanish speaker, you will read your question in Spanish, and you will write your comment in Spanish. And when you've written your comment in Spanish, if this applies to you, then when we are done with the English section, Jessica will synthesize in the same way that Omotunde, Michelle, and I will synthesize the English and give the Spanish speakers a sense of the summary of what was discussed, the themes, the concepts. And then Jessica will be so kind as to tell us what she just got finished telling them so that we, the English speakers, can know what exactly she discussed. And then we all have the benefit of hearing each other. So, and that is why we're very excited about this activity, because we are very much interested in your thoughts, but also collective voice. So just pardon us as we work through the mechanics, because we want to be inclusive and make sure that everyone is able to participate in the language that they prefer. So we will start with question 1. After, again, just to recap, the sequence will be, we post the question, you click on the link in the chat box, and then you'll see the question. You'll respond to the question. We will synthesize. We'll do that in Spanish, and then we'll move on to the next question. So we'll do that. We'll do 3 rounds of that. Okay. So Jonathan or Ingrid, can you take us to question 1 so that everybody can see how this works? Okay, so here's the first question. It says, can you share an example of how your organization works across systems to meet the whole child, whole family needs of prenatal to 3 families? It's a pretty general question, and you can feel free to answer that question however you'd like. Don't write anything long, just quick ideas, maybe 1 or 2 sentences. Just think bullet fashion, okay? That's what we'd like. And then you can see it in Spanish. And Jessica, do you mind just reading it for the Spanish speakers, please?
Sure, no problem. ¿Puedes darme un ejemplo de cómo su organización colabora con otros sistemas para apoyar las necesidades de niños y familia completos de familias prenatales a 3 años?
Thank you so much. Okay, so Jonathan or Ingrid, can you go ahead and take us to the board? And I see that you've already dropped the link into the chat, so that's great. If you're a participant, you can just watch our screen here so you can see how it works. So do you mind clicking on the link, Jonathan or Ingrid, so that we can see in real time what the board looks like? Okay, so it looks a little small here, but it will obviously be bigger on your screen. But we just want to walk you through this so that you know how it works. So when you click on that link that was provided in the chat, it will take you to this screen. And you will see that we have our question 1 in English on the left and Spanish on the right. And on the left, what we tried to do, oh, good, you're already getting started. This is fantastic. I just want to point out a few features so that you can understand how this works for those of you who might still be wondering, how do we get started? So if you can open your screen up just a little, or scroll up, There we go. All right, so you can see on the left, as I pointed out, English is on the left, the Spanish is in green. In order to create a sticky, in case you're wondering, you will click on, see where the mouse is hovering over the green plus sign? That is what you would click. You write your comment in there. If you see someone's comment and you were thinking the same thing, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you're wondering how to do that, you would just click on the sticky, and as you can see on the screen, touch the thumbs up, and then you click out of it, and then you get your thumbs up, and then you don't have to write the note because it's already been written and you've given it a thumbs up. So we've recorded your thoughts. And then again, we will come back together at the end of 4 minutes so that we can synthesize. I do see that there are just a couple of folks who are having trouble with accessing the link. It seems like there are 2 folks. So I would say to you, Patty and Sherelle, if you're having trouble, just write your comment in the chat box. So then we can record what you're thinking there. So I am going to push us ahead to get started. And I'm just thinking about the people who cannot see the screen. Jonathan or Ingrid, could I get you to copy the question in both English and Spanish and drop that in the chat, just for those who are unable to access the virtual board? Okay. So Patty and Sherelle, just hang tight. Thank you for your patience. They're going to drop the questions into the chat box. And once they do that, we will play some nice soft music in the black background so that you can relax and think, and then we'll call you back together. Thank you so much. My mind was blown. These are fantastic comments. I would love to just sit with this for like an hour and process them and think about them, but I know we don't have the time to do that now. As I was scanning through your really incredible comments, it occurred to me that you all, and I don't know if you just had the collective brilliance to do this, but I saw the who, so who exactly you were working with, and you named various other actors in the system. So I saw behavioral consultants, infant toddler specialists, folks in hospitals, folks within early intervention. You work across departments and divisions. We love that across word because it tells us that you're thinking in a cross-sector fashion. And then I saw some themes around the what. So what you're providing to families. And I saw communities of practice amongst yourselves as professionals so that you're learning from each other. I'm also curious if that community of practice comment also included parents, if that is something that you do, but we can dig into that kind of thing another time. But I also saw, in terms of the what that you're offering, I saw resource application assistance. So really partnering with parents and making sure that they get the supports that they need. So that brought me back to the ovals, and that made me think about what Michelle just described and how we all recognize that we're a part of this system somehow. And I was really excited to see how you're thinking across the systems. And then the last theme that I saw was that you were identifying your mechanisms, how you were doing this work. And I just quickly glimpsed at one of the stickies that talked about resource distribution through school buses. So you partner with, I'm not sure who the partner is, but you get resources to families through school buses, getting the resources on the bus and transporting them to families in need. So that was excellent. Thank you so much. I'm going to pause now and turn it over to Jessica so that she can tell us what the Spanish speakers were thinking about.
Ngozi, unfortunately, I didn't see any Spanish come in either in the chat or the board.
Oh,
so
okay.
Just as a reminder for our Spanish speakers, we can discuss what you are adding to the discussion in Spanish. So if there are some Spanish speakers out there, please feel free to participate for question 2 and 3.
Thank you, Jessica. And, it's quite possible also that some Spanish speakers may feel comfortable writing in English as well. So if that feels most comfortable for you, please continue. But if you do prefer to write in Spanish, please go ahead and put it on the right side of the board with the green stickies. All right, so thank you. Let's move on to question number 2. So I'll pass it to Omotunde.
Yes, thank you, Ngozi. I agree. I was looking at the Post-its and they were coming in with some great comments. So I love to see it. So we're going to go ahead and move on to question 2 that really talks about how your organization or your entity centers family voice. So for question 2, that was just dropped in the chat, go ahead and click on that. And question 2 is, in what ways does your organization center family voice, and how has that shaped your decisions, programs, or outcomes? So thinking about family voice in your organization. And Jessica, would you like to translate that for us?
Sure. La segunda pregunta es sobre la voz y las opiniones de las familias y los niños. La pregunta es, ¿de qué manera su organización pone primero la opinión de las familias y cómo esto ha cambiado sus decisiones, programas o los resultados?
Thank you. So go ahead and click that. And we will go ahead and get started. And Jonathan, if you can pull that question up, Jonathan or Ingrid, on the screen, question 2, so that folks can see it in real time as well. And also, thank you for the folks who are unable to see unable to click the link. If we can put those questions in the chat, that would be helpful. And we'll go ahead and get started. You all are doing a lot of work with families and centering family voice, and it really shows. Like Ngozi stated, I agree. I was glancing through these and just thinking about, and let me say this too, as you're on, there may be something that you see and you're like, oh, this is a great way to incorporate it in the work that you do as well. But some of the things that again, that I saw that just kind of jumped out. I love the parent leaders are trained through a parent leader program to evaluate parent and family voice. That's a great way to incorporate how parents are a part of the process. Something else that also jumped out, you allow families to join parent committees and parent meetings, and they really are part of that parent agreement and corporation as they create goals, because oftentimes we think that we know what families need, but really listening, as our family stated in the video, and not treating them, as just a client, but as a partner in this work. So you all are really getting it. Something else that also jumped out, I love how someone stated we established a policy council, really thinking about policy. Policy is so important, and really understanding that parents should be a part of that policy change too. And meeting bi-monthly and making program decisions, not just having families come in and provide input, but then also understanding that they should be a part of the decision making. Again, I can go on and on about the great work that you all are doing here. Please keep them coming. If something comes to mind, feel free to continue jotting these down. And I'll say one more that kind of hopped out to me as well, is that we have parent and community leads that work with community advocates who ask families of what they need and want in resources and services, right? Again, really going to the community and saying, hey, what are the needs? Because we don't always know the needs. As service providers, we think we do, but working together across systems, going to the community, working with parents to really understand what are the needs of our families. And I will transition it to Jessica to see if anything came in on your end.
Not yet, but I am here.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Jessica. I appreciate it. Again, please continue to add for question 1 and 2, but I will pass it to my colleague, Michelle, to go to question 3.
All right, thank you. These are amazing. I think you all should give yourself a pat on the back for all the work that you are doing to bring family voice. It's so important, and centering it and having it. I saw something about feedback loops, which I love, in terms of getting that information from parents and then doing something with it and saying, oh, did we get that right? Are we hearing you right? Did we miss? Love hearing that. And also says something about families at the table being written into a law. Can't get much better than that. So sorry, Tunde, I didn't mean to steal any of your thunder, but those were a couple that I saw that just sort of blew my mind. Anyway, okay. So question number 3 is, in your specific role, this is where the rubber meets the road, right? In your specific role, what is one concrete step you can take or have taken to strengthen cross-sector efforts for families with young children? So what have you personally done to strengthen cross-sector efforts? And Jessica, can you translate that for us, please?
Yes. La pregunta tercera, perdón, it's not on my screen anymore. So, la tercera pregunta es, en su puesto específico o en el trabajo que haces, ¿qué cosas concretas puedes hacer o has hecho para mejorar los esfuerzos intersectorales para las familias con niños pequeños?
Great. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and get started and let you all begin to fill in this board. You guys are pros by now. If the links aren't working for you or being finicky, please feel free to add your thoughts into the chat and we will be sure to get those captured. I know that many of you are doing great things in this regard, so please go ahead and talk about the things that you are doing. It can be at your own personal level. It can be something that you started within your organization. Any of those kinds of things that you are doing personally to work toward. You don't have to have achieved cross-sector work or cross-systems work, but what are you working toward and how are you working toward that work? Okay, thank you so much. Let's go ahead and bring this back and try to summarize what the fabulous things that you all have put in there. And Omotunde and Ngozi, please jump in if I miss, because I can't list all of those things that people are doing. The one through thread that I sort of felt was consistent here is relationships, whether it be building relationships with other organizations, building relationships with families, building relationships with other providers. There was just a lot of that kind of outreach, and we know that it all has to start with those relationships. We all have to learn to know each other, to speak each other's language. We may be saying the same word, but meaning something totally different. So those relationships are critical. We saw things happening at the regional level, joining with other organizations for parents to get together, listening and guiding the parents. I thought was really powerful. Someone else said, putting myself in places to see and hear from parents. What a fabulous way to start to begin to build this cross-sector work. The mobile hub, I was very excited about that and would love to learn more about the mobile hub that has been created, where you've got cross-agency resources and things that are brought together and then taken out to where parents are. And I think the other thing that I heard, and please, and then I'm going to let Ngozi and Omotunde sort of fill this out, but one person said constantly, that they're constantly doing this kind of work. And I feel like all of you are constantly doing this work and trying to break down those silos and work with other sectors and get to know people in other sectors that you don't know. Jessica, are we following the trend where we think our Spanish speaking friends are adding things in English?
Yes.
Okay. And Ngozi and Omotunde, I'm sure that I missed something really important. Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would just add one also trend that I saw too is advocacy. That was another one that really stuck out. Someone said that they continuous, I love to be a squeaky wheel advocating for parents on their behalf, and then advocate for parents to be compensated. That's also
Yes,
very important, right?
absolutely.
So that advocacy piece is something that really has stuck out. So kudos to you all for advocating, because one of the things that we heard is that caregiver fatigue or professional fatigue is a real thing. So the fact that you continuously advocate and work across systems so that you don't get that fatigue is so important. So that's one thing that I did want to point out.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you said that, Omotunde, because I saw the constantly learning and the advocacy, and that really resonated with me as well. I got excited about learning, and I'm probably paraphrasing, but someone wrote that they do relationship building, but they're also making an effort to constantly learn so that they can be an asset in these cross-sector relationships. And I thought that that was really important to just point out. I think people do that naturally, but to spell it out, I think is really important. And I really loved the resource sharing comment that I saw a few times. And I think that's a wonderful way to build relationships, to serve as a resource to someone else. And I think that certainly goes a long way. I got excited also about parent compensation. So someone wrote that, and I thought, what a tangible way to bring parents to the table in a way that is authentic. I mean, we're all doing our jobs. We receive a paycheck. Why would we be asking parents for their time and their ideas and their energy without compensating them for their time? So I thought that that was very thoughtful. And I know that many of you are doing that in your own work anyway, but I love that it was called out.
Yes. And then one last thing that I was looking back at my notes. A parent cafe program is about to get started, which is a great way to get parents together and have them speak to each other and to us who are trying to support them so that we can better support them. And then a book study group, like with people from cross organizations. I forget the title of the book, but it's, what a great way to build relationships without it directly coming at it through the work. Is let's read a book about perhaps our work, but in general, so that we can all talk together and share our experiences. And I thought that was a great idea, and I might steal it. Okay. Thank you so much for all of your participation. This was amazing. I think I'm going to say this, and then Jonathan, you can yell at me if this isn't true, but I think we're going to be able to share these boards with you. If at least not, we will be able to give you all of the information that comes off of them. So one way or the other, we will get all of these ideas to you as part of the resources that come out to you in a couple of weeks about the webinar and the other resources and the deck and other things that come to you. So I think it's time. I think we've had our discussion. So I think is it time to sort of wrap and move to a close? And Tony and Zan, you'll be pleased that we are doing an XChange promotion. So Omotunde, take it away.
No, it's me again.
Oh, it's Ngozi. Golly. Sorry.
This is kind of fun. So you'll see that Tony just dropped the link to the Prenatal to 3 exchange, so you can access it there, or you could take your phones right now and scan the barcode. I think that works, but if it doesn't, this link definitely will take you to where you would register and join. So many of you have heard about the Prenatal to 3 exchange, but in case you've been living under some rock and you have not heard of it, We will not shame you or shade you. We will just gently encourage you to get to the platform because it's really exciting. It's a great place. I finally joined. And what I want to share with you is that the Prenatal to 3 Exchange is the Build Initiative's Prenatal to 3 Knowledge and Networking Hub. So this is a national community where people like you from it could be state and community leaders, practitioners, advocates, researchers, parents, where we can all connect to share resources, strategies, and lessons learned about supporting children and families in the critical prenatal to 3 years. So by joining it, it is free, by the way, and there are no annoying ads in there. It's just the network. So you get a discussion and learning peer space. So you get access to what your colleagues are talking about. And then you also get access to a resource library. And inside this resource library, you can get tools, you can find briefs that are just being published on various topics. You can get webinar recordings and just examples from other states. And so we know it's very valuable for states to be learning from one another, communities to be learning with one another. And so this platform allows you to do that. So, and by joining, you are able to not just take information, but you can also give information. So in the same way that if you have some new exciting tool or resource that you want the world to know about, you want folks to use, you can share it there. So please take a moment and register if you have not. And then I will pass it back to Omotunde and Michelle to close us out.
Awesome. Thank you, Ngozi. So we really appreciate you all joining us today, whether this was your 9th webinar or your first webinar. Thank you so much for sticking with us or joining us today. This is our contact information of the 4 of us here, my colleagues, Michelle and Ngozi and Jessica. We, again, thank you so much. This is our information. And then also, get ready, Build 25, the heart of the matter. Please join us in Los Angeles, California, December 2nd through the 4th, as we come together, and you'll be able to meet with other early childhood educators, different sectors in the field. So if you have not registered, there's still time. We want to see you there in sunny California. So go ahead and click on that link or go to our website and you'll be able to register and join. And then also, as soon as this webinar ends, we really want to encourage you to fill out the survey. Although this is our last webinar, it really helps us as moderators and facilitators just be more understanding of how we can improve and get better. So please fill out this survey, and then I will pass it to Michelle to officially close us out of our webinar series.
Oh, it's the official closeout. That sounds so final. We'll be back. We'll be doing more webinars. Just keep your eyes open. So first and foremost, I just want to thank all of you for taking time out of what I know are very busy days, and to share all of the great information that you shared with us and all of the great ways that you are centering families and what you're doing to help break down silos. It's so important. Probably now more than ever that we come together to help vulnerable young children and families. I have just a list of thank you, so I'm going to go real quick. Thank you to the Pritzker Children's Initiative who provides funding to the Hub's work. I'd like to thank Andrea from the Community Language Cooperative who provided our interpretation services today. And I would like to give a shout out to the Community Language Cooperative. They're a fabulous organization. If you need help with translation or interpretation services, I would highly recommend them. Thank you to all of the Build staff who are behind the scenes making all of this magic happen. Omotunde and Ngozi, very personal thank you and gratitude to you for being such great planning partners throughout this entire year. Basically, you've just been a joy to work with. Jessica, thank you so much for joining our team today, sort of at the last minute. We really appreciate your support. Jonathan and Ingrid, what to say about you guys? You are behind the scenes. You never really get the gratis that you deserve. So thank you very much for making all of this happen. Tony and Xandria from the XChange, thank you for being on. Thank you for helping things move along in the chat. Thank you for putting the link in there for people to join the chat frequently. So that's really important. And thank you for being with us. And two folks who may or may not be on the webinar as our comms team is Mariana and Crystal. And if they see this recording, I just want them to know that we very much appreciate their help in putting this all together. So thank you again for your time today. It's been a very special webinar to hear from you and what you're doing. And we hope to see you in Build in Los Angeles in early December. And please have a great rest of your day and rest of your week and a happy weekend. Bye, everybody.